harbors a beast deep inside you. It will not die. It will fight back.
War Thunder is a truly deep game, but you might not know it as well as you think. Like many video games, it has a truly rich history, full of intense, dark, and some funny lore, some of which just being truly baffling, some of which just being kind of dumb. In case you are new, the way an iceberg chart works is at the top you have your surface level knowledge, things most people will know, but just like a real iceberg, there is usually more beneath the surface, and the further down you go, the lesser known some of these facts become, in some cases becoming a lot darker and spookier on the way. Is it training the military? Why are there body pillows everywhere? Why did the reviews go from mostly positive to overwhelmingly negative within just a week? Screw it, Stalin photo, funding terrorism, janky visuals, ominous creepypastas. War Thunder has it all, and it turns out it is actually pretty incredibly messed up, and their history has led to them jumping the shark one too many times. And so today, as promised, I put together the complete War Thunder Iceberg, detailing everything you did and didn't know about this beloved, hated game. A couple disclaimers though before we begin. One big shout out to Ian's War Thunder Iceberg video, as he served as the basis of inspiration for my one. And also, if you have seen that one or any other War Thunder lore videos, then I guarantee you that some of the ones that appear here won't be new. But I also guarantee you that some of these will surprise you. And the other disclaimer, if you were a fan of my old channel from back in the day before I lost it, then you probably knew that I have already made 2 of these before in the past. One of those exactly roughly a year ago. But now it's back, remade and brand new, mashing both parts together for an even bigger, ultimate experience. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my magnum opus, my Mona Lisa. This is my War Thunder Iceberg. War Thunder. Starting off with the most basic of all the topics here, War Thunder itself, because you never know, there might be a newcomer who has never even played the game and simply wants to know more. So anyways, War Thunder is a semi-realistic light military simulator that revolves around combat vehicles throughout mostly the 20th century, but really it spans from the early 1930s all the way to the present day. That wasn't always the case, but that's the state the game's in now. It is currently the most popular game of its class at the moment, and players can enjoy gameplay from 3 major vehicle types, which is definitely something that is unique to War Thunder and part of what it prides itself on. You can play as tanks, planes, and warships. Okay, maybe not warships, but mostly tanks and planes. It has several unique realistic elements, such as an intricate X-ray system rather than just basic hit points like other games, and it has a more complicated flight model than other games as well, with several aspects of War Thunder just simply being designed to give players as much sense of realism and immersion as possible, most of the time. Anyways, War Thunder has entered its 13th year, which is wild when you think about it, and the game is still going strong, which is even wilder when you factor in all the controversies it's had over the years. Despite having a reputation of being hated by its own players, I can say, having played the game for 10 years myself, well, I can confirm is a fun game. Difficulties. War Thunder's combat is split into 3 main modes, air, land, and sea. But those are also split into 3 modes yet again, arcade battles, realistic battles, and simulator battles. Arcade is the most basic, it's usually what most players start with, and is probably the most beginner friendly as it holds your hand a lot more. You get leading indicators, armor penetration indicators, vehicles move a bit faster, planes handle better, and they are usually just chaos incarnate, albeit not particularly substantial and not really worth revisiting after you go on to realistic. Kind of like going from your main bicycle back down to a little kiddie one with training wheels again. Actually, now that I say it, that sounds kind of fun. Maybe I should try that. I mean, he looks like he's having fun. Realistic is what many would consider the real meat and bones of the game, and although arcade started out as the more popular one in the early days of War Thunder, it's been a long time since that has been the case now. Realistic is really where it's at, and most people's main game mode. The main difference for air battles is that you can't respawn, so you better look after your plane. As for tanks, the main difference is there are no markers for enemy tanks, so you have to have a keen eye to tell what's going on and where the bad guys are. As for simulator, it's even more niche and more overlooked as well, especially by the game's own developers. It's almost like the forgotten game mode in a way. Sim makes you confined to first person, makes controlling aircraft harder, and takes away all the markers, meaning you can and probably will most likely end up team killing somebody at least once. But I hope you memorized all the different colors of all the copy-paste tanks in the game. But let's be honest, for most players, just taking off in your aircraft is a bit of a challenge in Simulator. Anyways, it's worth at least trying each of the modes, as they all offer something unique. Like in Naval's case, for example, it offers a unique sense of something lacking in the other modes. Boredom.
Voy a la playa, ya subió la marea.
Sorry, that probably upset all the Naval fans. Yeah, both of them. Vehicles. Unsurprisingly, War Thunder has an awful lot of vehicles, numbering well into the thousands, and that's not even a joke. Granted, not all of them are entirely unique from each other, but it is still an impressive record nonetheless. For the most part, technology starts from just before World War II right up to the present day, and you unlock each of these through various tech trees in the game. There are a couple instances of older vehicles, but those are few and far between and kind of rare exceptions. But that's not all. Many accuse War Thunder of being close to running out of vehicles, which, in fairness, when you take a look at some of their additions, it does sort of feel like we are retreading the same ground here, but it in fact couldn't be further from the truth, and there are hundreds of planes and tanks and ships still out there ready to be added, and, well, with how often War Thunder updates its game with many new vehicles coming throughout the year, I imagine we'll get more new stuff pretty damn soon. But the copy-paste side of things is for later in the video. The variety of tanks, planes, and yes, even warships in this game really is incredible, varying from the iconic classics that might have just got you playing the game in the first place to the more niche, stranger things that you may have never even heard of. There really is something here for everybody, and you'd find it difficult to not have your own favourites in this game. YouTubers. There are dozens, maybe even hundreds of War Thunder YouTubers out there making videos on this game, far more successfully than me anyway. War Thunder is full of content creators, some doing it as a living and others doing it just for fun. Some being genuine pros that somehow get ace games or nukes in every match that they play, and others being, well, more like me. Some of us YouTubers are even lucky enough to get the War Thunder partnership, which, as long as you are making good content for their game, gives you bonus golden eagles and access to certain vehicles. So effectively, it's like an in-game wage of gold entirely free of charge, which is handy.
Money is even better when it's free!
The biggest War Thunder YouTuber outside of the main War Thunder channel itself is of course Fly Daily, which the game even commemorated in-game with a special bundle you could buy that honoured him for reaching 1 million subs on YouTube. Please subscribe. Other YouTubers also can have their own personal decals put in the game if they're lucky. Still waiting for them to give the green light on my one though. Somebody make me a cool decal so we can finally be put in the game. TheSnazzyComet. Continuing on from the YouTuber subject, we have my own channel. Yes, I am in my own iceberg because I am that self-centered. Again, for those that are new here and want to know a little bit more about me and what I do here on YouTube. I cover mostly War Thunder, occasionally dabbling into other things, but with regards to War Thunder, I do news, updates, challenges, top 5s, you name it. It's genuinely boundless, the sort of things you can come up with when it comes to videos. Except Naval. And top tier, to some extent. But you guys all knew that already. Anyways, as most of you know, I lost my old channel earlier in summer and have been working to rebuild it with regards to subscribers and such. Thank you to everyone that is subscribed, or even those just watching right now. It means a lot and it allows me to keep doing what I'm doing. If you are enjoying it, make sure to hit the like button on the video. It really helps the channel out. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm called the Snazzy Comet, well, when I was younger, I thought snazzy was a cool word and thus my favorite word, and comet is also a cool word and my favorite tank. Oh, the creativity of old gamer tags. Honestly, now that I think about it, I hardly ever say my own username out loud. There's probably a reason for that.
Look, I just made that name up. I never said that name out loud before. It sounds stupid now that I say.
Crew voices. One of the interesting parts of the intricate detailing that War Thunder goes into is the crew voices. As you'd expect, there are vehicles from nations all around the world in the game, but War Thunder actually went to the effort of recording crew voice lines for almost every single nation that you can play as. From English to German to Dutch to Chinese, it's in there and it sounds pretty good.
3 часа. Дистанция 600 метров. Цель уничтожена.
Just in case you are relying on the game to give you information when you're playing, you can turn this feature off and just keep it to whichever language you actually speak, but having unique voice lines for every major and minor nation in the game is pretty awesome and really helps with the immersion. Cinematics. War Thunder is a pretty game, but it is only made even more pretty by some of the fantastic cinematics that the community have made. Whether it be cool music edits with some sick gameplay, truly massive grand scale events, or even recreating much of an entire movie, War Thunder serves as a great template to film all sorts of amazing content. One key example is the Battle of Britain movie, done in War Thunder with voice acting by several of the players, including some of the YouTubers. How cool is that?
Stop that Polish chatter and turn to port. 2, 3, 0.
Repeat, please.
I say again, 2, 3, 0.
Repeat, please.
For crying out loud, 2, 3, 0.
Repeat, please. Repeat, please.
War Thunder Live. War Thunder Live is the main modding and blog site attached to War Thunder. It is full of community posts, updates and such, but mostly people use it to download things like funky user skins, wacky user models, or even just make your hangar look like Minecraft for some reason. The variety on here is truly expansive. Whether you're looking for something historical, something flashy, or whatever's going on here, there are boundless skins to choose from. Just try your best to avoid all the borderline hentai ones because there are a lot, like everywhere. Like, how is this even allowed? Doesn't anyone moderate this stuff?
Dude, what's the matter? What happened? What's going on?
There's so much porn.
Well, what the hell are you doing looking at my private shit?
What are you talking about? Private shit, Johnny? It was wide open. There were literally thousands of files here.
On the other hand, War Thunder Live is where you gotta go if you want very snazzy skins like this P-38 Lightning one. Or it's where you go to drive cars, fly UFOs, or just generally break the game. Give it a try. History. It might not really come as a surprise to anybody watching this, but War Thunder is based off of real vehicles, real warfare, and therefore real history. Despite being a game, none of these are really fictional, and these are real war machines. Okay, mostly. And therefore, despite the tone of this video, it should still be remembered that these are in fact military vehicles that took part in real-life conflicts from the past, and in some cases the present as well. It's just important to remember what it is you're flying from time to time before you ruin someone's day. And with that, we have covered the tip of the iceberg. Now, let's move on to the surface. Wanted vehicles. No, not as in they literally have a bounty on their heads, but wanted vehicles refer to just vehicles people actually want in the game. Everyone has their own wish list. We'll go into this in a little bit more detail later on with user-made tech trees, but despite there being thousands of vehicles in game, there are just as many, okay, well maybe almost as many that aren't in game, but remain at the top of most people's wish lists anyway. Me, for an example, can think of dozens even just off the top of my head. A metric butt ton of funky designs out there, usually some really quirky niche types, and unfortunately, we are just barely trickle-fed these over time, usually in favor of adding more top-tier stuff. I do actually have my own personal wish list of these vehicles, and over the last whole year of updates, with each update providing anything between 20 and 30 vehicles at a time, out of my wish list we have received a grand total of 4. Honestly, that's better than we usually do. The year before that, I genuinely don't think there was a single one added from my wish list. Fingers crossed we can hope for the future. Anyways, I guess it is a bit subjective as to what people actually want. Some want 5th gen fighters, and I'm still on thinking that 4th gen was a bad idea. Classified leaks. Without a doubt, one of the reasons War Thunder is as infamous as it is are due to the numerous classified leaks and scandals that have happened over the years. Because so many of the military vehicles in the game are still in use with several militaries around the world, some still being considered state-of-the-art and top secret, much of the information is classified, meaning War Thunder has had to fill in the gaps with various guesstimates as to certain parts of their performance. This can sometimes mean they get it wrong, and well, War Thunder players have a habit of wanting to be proven right. One instance early on revolved around a Reddit argument between two people discussing the Leclerc main battle tank's turret traverse, and whether or not it was 30 or 40 degrees. Yes, really, that niche. In order to win the argument, somebody decided to leak actual classified documents to public domain. Unfortunately, it didn't end there, and over the last couple years, these cases have happened again and again and again, and as of recording this, there are an astounding 15 separate cases of classified leaks for War Thunder.
Isn't that illegal?
What did you just say to me?
I'm pretty sure this requires a warrant.
This is, of course, actually illegal and has been reported by several news sites over time. War Thunder has become so infamous that somebody I know that was trying to join the military was asked if they knew about War Thunder, as it was deemed as a national security risk. What's even funnier is that half the time the changes to these vehicles aren't even being made, so just don't bother with the leaking, guys. Helicopters. I said that there were 3 main types of vehicles in War Thunder, but there are technically 4 if you include helicopters. Helicopters definitely had a little bit of a janky introduction to the game, and despite being in their own tech trees, they aren't nearly as fleshed out as they could be, partly because the helicopters in War Thunder just haven't really found their place in the game yet. There used to be helicopter enduring confrontations, which were special events for them that would last multiple hours at times, and although profitable and a good way to earn cash in game, they were about as fun as watching paint dry. War Thunder helicopters can still be played in ground battles and of course custom battles, but they also still feel like they've never fully been realized with regards to their potential in game. Half nations. Although War Thunder has fully committed to adding certain smaller countries as dedicated branches in the bigger countries' tech trees, for example South Africa in the British tree and so on, there are also a lot of what I like to call half nations. Nations that are neither a full tech tree nor a sub-tree, but still playable. Tanks like the Ram 2 for Canada, or the Polish Firefly for, well, Poland, are currently one-offs. It's a pretty cool way of doing things that adds a bit of variety without just blatantly copy-pasting a whole tree into another. That is until they decide to then go back on their decision and add the nation as a tech tree anyway, like they did with Israel. Twitch drops. Like many games, War Thunder gives players the opportunity to link their War Thunder and Twitch accounts for the chance to win free little goodies. Said goodies vary in quality if you ask me, but most of them are at least a copy of a vehicle already in game, but sometimes with premium bonuses and varying degrees of a garish paint job. The current one is actually the very rare and sought after P51A, so if you do have a Twitch account, then I would highly recommend you get watching so then you can earn this thing as well. Fokker D23 glitch. This next one is a very hilarious bug which has sadly been patched out now, but it came with the fairly new Dutch Fokker D23, a unique push and pull twin boom design. Despite being unique, this early World War II fighter came with the unfortunate tendency to spawn way faster than it could ever actually go, spawning immediately at Mach 2.17, which is about 4 times what this plane rip speed is, and results in the pilot pulling an insane 41 Gs, which is just ridiculous and usually results in death shortly after. First person views. There are a number of first-person views in the game, the most obvious one being the pilot view in aircraft and the gunner view for your tankers, but there are actually a few more. There is also the commander's view for your tank, which is, by the way, the one you're limited to in Simulator. Okay, I say first person, it's actually just kind of zoomed in near the top, I guess, but you can actually get a driver's camera for your vehicle as well. Although there is not a default keybind for this and you need to set it up yourself, there's really no benefit to having a driver's camera, but it's still pretty cool to see anyway. Special events. Outside of the main ones throughout the year, there are many side special events that come to the game offering you a different flavour of gameplay. Just as an example, a couple years ago there was an OP PO2 event where you could fly a souped up PO2 biplane in order to unlock the actual PO2 biplane, the ultimate meme machine. Then there's the Halloween event, which comes around each year where you can take part in spooky Halloween themed races through various courses set up. And as an old example, the War Thunder Guardian Angel event, which had you take part in large bomber raids, which went about as well as you'd expect. Damn it, War Thunder just buffed them already. Basement Guy. Ah yes, the old Basement Guy. We spoke about YouTube before, but this one refers to specifically War Thunder's own official channel, which has really made it big, especially with regards to YouTube Shorts, and of course, the elusive Basement Guy. Rather than post anything even remotely serious, the YouTube Shorts are almost always memes, brain rot, or just something extremely cursed and hilarious. And their creator, the genius behind the madness, the mysterious Basement Guy, War Thunder's own anonymous content creator, jokingly described by the fans as a poor soul trapped in Gaijin Entertainment's basement and forced to churn out these chaotic videos, which is probably why they are so cursed in the first place. Pick any YouTube Shorts done by War Thunder and I guarantee you will find multiple comments talking about the Basement Guy every single time, making him sort of an unofficial mascot of their channel. Age rating. Despite covering such a deep and dark source material, War Thunder has actually managed to maintain consistency with its age rating of just PEGI 12. Any gore or more extreme violence, well, more extreme than this anyway, and the game will have to increase its age rating upwards, which is never something they planned on doing. What this means though is that the game likes to pretend absolutely nothing bad is happening to you and your crew. Your tank could literally be like this, but the game will still label your crew as just unconscious.
What the fuck?
Copy-paste. Copy-paste or copy-pasta refers to the rather large number of in-game vehicles that was simply, well, copied rather than the game coming up with exciting and interesting new designs to add. There are numerous examples of where this has happened, especially within recent times, with the usual excuse being to give certain nations more balanced lineups. I and some others are of the opinion that, well, in most cases, if a nation doesn't have a balanced lineup at that tier consisting of its own vehicles, then just leave it that way. Adding too much from other nations tends to remove that country's unique flavor. I mean, look how many T-80s we have. Do we really need them all? And like, what exactly is the difference between them anyway? Rat tanks. No, not that rat tank. Rat tanks refers to silly little, usually quite small and cute tanks that serve as the bane of most players' existence. Tanks so small and fast that they come across more as a nuisance, but are extremely deadly if left unchecked, especially at higher tiers where their autocannons shred the fairly weak side armor of most MBTs. Rat tanks, if done properly and as a sort of challenge when you up tier them, can be hilarious good fun to play and an absolute blast, especially as a squad when you deploy swarm tactics. It really is a great time, and I'd recommend a lot of you try it out with, say, I don't know, the M22 Locust for example. Snail memes. If you had to choose an actual mascot for War Thunder, it would probably be the snail. Not necessarily a specific snail, but rather just snails in general, as a snail is Gaijin's logo. As a result, the game itself and the players like to make lots of snail-related jokes, usually talking about how they must sell their soul to the snail to keep playing, to in fact just referring to War Thunder as the snail game, and even some liking to say that there is a Gaijin snail deity. In one of the April Fool's events, you even had to fight a giant kaiju-sized snail. Either way, the funny snail god is wise in his decision making and absolutely promises there is a reason for him to ignore your pleas to fix the game. He'll get round to it very slowly eventually. Wait, maybe that's why their logo is a snail. Legacy War Thunder. Legacy War Thunder, or just Old War Thunder, was really a rather different game. It looked different, it sounded different, and despite the core gameplay still being roughly the same, it even played different in many ways. Ironically, some would argue it was better back then too. Just one thing that was different back then were the rank systems for how vehicles were organized. There were no battle ratings, just 20 ranks, and you progressed by reaching these ranks, and when you did, you'd automatically unlock multiple planes at a time, depending on, well, what was in that rank. This would be cool, as sometimes you might end up with 3 new planes in one go, but other times there would be nothing at all in that rank yet. It also made actually affording them a little bit more difficult, as you suddenly had to pay for all of these new planes in one go as well. There were also only 5 nations at the time, and some would argue that that was a better way of doing things, as there wasn't nearly as much copy-paste. Complaining your lineup wasn't balanced yet? Well, you just had to get used to it. Arcade was also the main game mode, and for the first couple years it was aircraft only. Furthermore, the matchmaking was completely messed up in its early stages to accommodate for a smaller player base. More often than not, it just didn't really care whether you were up tiered, down tiered, or whatever tiered. You would face those top tiers in your rank 6 and you will like it. I'd recommend watching a lot of the older War Thunder YouTube videos. It really is a magical treasure lost to time, and I so wish I could revisit it. It's almost like I've got a nostalgia for it despite me not playing it in its earliest years. And with the surface complete, we can finally dip below the waves. And now, for a lot of you, I imagine that this is where it starts becoming a little bit more unfamiliar. Stellinium. One of the most iconic memes to do with this game, and just the Russian military in general, is of course stellinium, the mystical Russian material that makes up its war machines and most likely the culprit to any claims of Russian bias. It actually originated in World of Tanks rather than War Thunder, but War Thunder definitely inherited the same sort of thing. Stellinium is a fictional metal that is used as the excuse as to the reason for any levels of BS happening in your game experience, whether playing as or against specifically Russian vehicles. The metal was likely constructed using the famous secret documents or secret documents, and is perhaps the greatest man-made substance ever created, allegedly able to even stop an Abrams tank shell at point-blank range. Seriously, what is that T-34 driver's hatch made of? Huh? Oh wait, stellinium. It's allegedly said to look like several microscopic Stalins plastered together. Really, the more likely scenario is that it is just made of sulfur, tantalum, lithium, and nitrogen. Or Stalin. But you be the judge. According to the official website where it details all the history of stellinium, it is actually just made of Stalin himself. User tech trees. A lot of players have taken it into their own hands and made their own fan-made tech trees instead of those in-game, usually detailing a plan as to what they want the game to look like in their own world, and usually using the website neocities.org, which is really just tailor-made for the whole thing. I'd thoroughly recommend giving it a go, as it can be very addicting, and I just end up getting lost in my own world making these things. I've done 2 big ones in the past, and I'm currently working on a casual side project one at the moment. Hopefully these will make it into their own video someday. But for now, I'll simply link them in the video description below. Asymmetrical vehicles. Despite a lot of vehicles being very aesthetically beautiful, a lot of them are actually asymmetrical. Some of which being more obvious, but some of which in more of a subtle way that still, for some, completely ruins the vehicle, as you now can't get that nagging thought out of your head. Even iconic ones like the M1 Abrams and the King Tiger are not safe from this. How about some of the planes then? I like how the flamboyant masters of art, the Italians, are actually particularly susceptible to this. Take a quick look and yikes. The worst offender though is the C202 Folgore. It's quite hard to actually tell visibly, but apparently one wing is actually a few inches longer than the other, and that just really bugs me. Community events. Some of the best times I have ever had on War Thunder has been a part of various community events. These are usually arranged independently from the official servers, and instead done on various discords, and if you get enough people in, they are insanely fun. Some of my highlights would be air shows, tank races, and of course, the historical reenactments, where you take part to try and recreate some of the greatest battles from history, with often spectacular results. Big shoutouts go to the Mobilized server, the Frontline server, and the 244th server, which are my main sort of go-to historical reenactment servers. They are absolutely fantastic and full of great guys, and I've had a lot of memories with all of them. I would thoroughly recommend you all give these a go. All you need to do is have the game, and I guess about 60 odd friends to play with. One time I even took part in a lobby crash with the new flying flapjack UFO aircraft with a whole bunch of other YouTubers. There must have been 13 or 14 War Thunder content creators all playing at the same time in the same game, a real all-star cast of characters crashing various matches with the pure chaos of filling the skies with several stacks of pancakes. Again, if you want to do something like this, all you have to do is just join one of the many Discord servers out there. Hell, you could even join my one, that would be fantastic. I'm just working on getting it big enough so then I myself can host these wonderful events. Stay tuned, because I will be hosting a War Thunder air show in the near future. Birds of Steel and IL-2 Sturmovik. IL-2 Sturmovik is what made Gaijin originally famous, as it was a series of respected World War II flight sim games. which culminated in one I ended up playing, IL-2 Sturmovik Birds of Prey. Slightly confusingly, there is another version of this game called Wings of Prey, and neither are to be confused with another game called Birds of Steel. All three games released around the same time, and together the three of these would lay the groundwork for early War Thunder itself, which released in 2012. A lot of assets from these games were actually brought over to War Thunder, from the soundtrack to Nigel himself and even the crusty old aircraft models, some of which you can even still find in game to this day. There are several aspects of these games that honestly make them worth revisiting if you can get a hold of them. The D point. Ah yes, the infamous D point, possibly War Thunder's most iconic meme, one I hear absolutely everywhere, even on random non-relevant tank or plane posts. In the game, on the radio commands, you have the option to say various orders, such as defend the B point, attack the C point, and more. There is also
Attack the D point!
But there is no D point. And thus the meme was born. I didn't even really know how or why this became a meme. Maybe it's just because D stands for certain funny words, or maybe because it's funny to tell people to attack something that doesn't actually exist. Once upon a time there was actually a D point in ground battles, but it was removed fairly early on.
Attack the D point!
Super vehicles. There are a number of vehicles in game that have super in the name, indicating that they are a large upgrade over the previous model, in some cases an entirely new beast altogether, because everyone knows adding super to your name just makes you sound way cooler. Superman, Super Saiyans, and in this case, some examples include the Pershing going to the Super Pershing and the Saber going to the Super Saber. Just awesome stuff name-wise. I mean, the B-17 Flying Fortress going to the B-29 Super Fortress, now that is a marketing stunt if I've ever seen one. Except for France in the Super AMX-30, that doesn't quite have the same ring to it. Whiskey Cola. Whiskey Cola is a song that was used for a number of memes, especially War Thunder memes a little while ago. I don't really know what they're singing about other than presumably some drinks, but it was a popular meme format for a bit. I literally couldn't go anywhere without hearing this thing and War Thunder together. Probably because there was a cover of the song sung by one of the in-game radio voices, and it was glorious. Oops, I think it's actually called Whiskey Cola and Tequila, so maybe that's just me being crap. Old bombers. War Thunder bombers are somewhat infamous in game at the moment. Infamous for being, well, abysmal. They've actually been in a pretty sorry state for some time now. More so now than ever, to a point where most bombers are borderline unplayable with how fragile they are. It is genuinely just a scary experience. And cool though they may be, they really just aren't worth playing at the moment. Your survivability rate is just too low. But that wasn't always the case. Way back in the day, and we're talking like 12 or 13 years ago at least, War Thunder bombers were actual tanks, like they're supposed to be. They could soak up punishment, looked awesome with their epic damage models, and the gunners would actually shoot back. Yeah, I know, crazy. I genuinely wish I could have experienced this because that would be so cool. Come on, War Thunder, make them great again. I mean, just look at this stuff. This is how they should be right now. April Fool's events. Without a doubt, the special events that get the most effort put into them are the April Fool's ones, because they are almost consistently, without fail, some of the most bizarre official gaming experiences you can get in all of War Thunder. At their core, it is still your regular kind of gameplay, but usually with a couple rather obvious twists. Just some examples that have been: we've had KV2 style Star Wars walkers, giant snail kaijus, World of Tanks bashing where they gave you an inflatable tank and hit points, revealing top tier modern vehicles at least 5 years before they actually came to the game for real, alien spaceships, literal spaceships in space, Dune tie-ins, and even pirate ships. A lot of these also ended up featuring new gameplay elements that would also be added for real. The space ones likely teased VTOL aircraft, the mech suits were teasing infantry, the ships were teasing, well, ships, A lot of effort actually went into these. For the Star Wars walkers, they created fake real-life photos to add to the lore. For the alien ships, they created an entire fictional language. For the pirate ships, they changed all the music in-game to real-life sea shanties. And for the World War I event, you actually got to keep all the ground vehicles you could play as. There were also ponies. Because why not, I guess.
He's a magical pony flying to the sky on a magical...
Shoot it down.
Simulator battles. We touched on this earlier, but it is time to dive deeper into War Thunder's more forgotten of its main game modes. Sim has always been reserved for the more hardcore players, usually with the more hardcore setups as well, especially for the pilots. The problem is it's just not that approachable, and because of that the lobbies are pretty small and the queue entry times are often really long. Now, as a player I can get by in simulator ground battles, as outside of the fixed view and the team killing included, it's basically the same as ground RB. Air Sim isn't, as most of the time you're put into these giant maps with timers that can go on for like 2 hours. They aren't fun. They can be kinda relaxing if all you're hoping to do is take a strike aircraft and base bomb without interruption, as there's a genuine slim chance that you'll actually encounter an enemy, but outside of that there's just not much point in playing them. If you do though, I would strongly recommend you take a very fast plane because you'll be there for a while otherwise. However, if you do get into a nifty dogfight with the off chance that you actually encounter an enemy, it does make for a very cool VR sequence, so there's that. Sim is generally just ignored by the player base and tucked away to the side by guys in themselves as well, and it's kind of a shame. But hey, it's there if you want to give it a go. Unique hangars. Throughout the year for various special events, War Thunder will change its hangar from looking like a plain Jane to more of a fancy Nancy. These events include Halloween, Christmas, and War Thunder's birthday. There might be another one, but well, let's hope not, otherwise I'll have to redo this. These are really cool, as in some cases there are little Easter eggs scattered about in the hangar as well for you to check out. Unfortunately, in the latest update you are able to just turn this off. I don't know why, but yeah, sadly you can if you just don't like celebrating fun, I suppose. Firebird's update delay. War Thunder update Firebirds, like many things, had a set release date once upon a time, but due to one reason or another it was delayed again and again. If you're wondering which update this actually was, it's the one with the Nighthawk. And that probably explains quite a lot. The Nighthawk was a horrendous, buggy mess on launch, with many players simply crashing on takeoff and others just figuring out what the hell they're supposed to do with a plane without guns, speed, agility, a decent payload, or countermeasures. And to be honest, we're still trying to figure that part out. Long story short, it led to update Firebirds being delayed anything between 2 to 3 times after its original release date, which is kinda funny to me. Italian bomber is OP. The Italians do not have the best reputation when it comes to their military hardware. They may have had the Roman Empire at one point, but if you do badly in World War II, well, the rest of the world will just never live it down. Ask the French. Anyways, despite this, there is actually a current bug in War Thunder where the Kant C1007 is almost unkillable. Obviously, this isn't historically accurate because it shouldn't be able to fly like, well, yeah, that's right. At the moment, this Italian bomber is basically unaffected by the loss of things that would usually cripple anything else. Things like wings, tails, and general structural damage. The only way to kill it is to shoot the pilot or bring down its engines, but then again, I have actually survived having my pilot killed, so maybe that one just isn't true. This thing is just so broken OP, we decided to take it out for a spin as a squad the other day, even dabbling in battle ratings much higher than it actually had, and the results were extraordinary, and was some of the funniest laughs I've had in War Thunder in a long time. It became the ultimate underestimated underdog. No matter what game we put it in, we actually had some surprising success and a couple top boards on the score. It is kind of insane how overpowered this is, and I'm amazed it's lasted this long in this state. Apparently it's been going like this for at least a couple weeks now. It's a shame that this will almost certainly be patched as soon as possible, but yeah, the Kant 1007, it is just so damn funny to play at the moment. It is just such a bizarre visual and gaming experience. Maybe the Kant 1007 is the one Italian bomber that can. Anti-British bias. Despite having some pretty good tech in real life, the British in game seem to be notoriously hated by War Thunder as a developer, constantly being given the short stick in most situations. The Comet being the best British tank of the war? Wrong. Have it be subpar to the mediums of its time and even in some cases completely outclassed. Chieftain having good armor and a legendary gun? Think again. What's that? You wanted your lightning modeled properly? Nah. I genuinely do not understand the reasoning because it is just so consistent. It is baffling how many great tanks and aircraft are just crap in this game. Like, what the hell, game? Why does everything for us have to be subpar? What is your source for all this? Forget Germany suffers. Germany only suffers because the players are terrible. Britain suffers because we're given bad things to work with. On the plus side, they have accidentally given the QF 3.7-inch RAM double its intended horsepower, and it still hasn't been fixed yet for some reason. Booster curse. Booster curse is a sort of urban myth where if you activate an in-game booster for increased silver line or RP, you are almost sealing your fate to have an awful game. Like the game is suddenly aware of the stakes now. Obviously this works with the higher the percentage on your booster, the worse your luck will be. Honestly, it's up to you whether you believe this is a legitimate thing or just cope on a large scale, but if you ask me, it's happened so many times. Each time I activate one of the bigger boosters, I am just waiting for a comical piano to drop on my head at this point. F-100 Super Sabre. The Super Sabre is a gorgeous airplane, and it just happens to be my very favourite. However, there is a very large amount of people that seems to think it resembles a catfish. No, not that kind. This thing. And yeah, I guess something about the giant air intake on the front does make it look a little bit fishy or something. Honestly, I don't really know. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't, but it is quite funny either way. As a result, the Super Sabre has been the butt of many fish-related jokes, and the two are synonymous with each other at this point. Either that, or people just refer to this as the Super Suck instead. Single-player content. Although being primarily an online experience fighting with and against real players, War Thunder has a reasonably expansive single-player variety, albeit almost entirely plane-orientated, and some of it is locked behind a paywall that I'm pretty sure you can't actually access anymore. Much of it is either inspired by or borrowed from the sort of things that you'd see in Birds of Steel, for example, and it can be pretty fun. There are these little campaign missions, some of which feature actual cutscenes with real stock footage of World War II, and it's just a nice little side mode. The downside is there really is no in-game benefit for doing this. Like, you do get some rewards, but they're basically minuscule, especially if you've been playing for a while. Outside of personal enjoyment, you may as well skip over these, but if you do want to do something other than the normal game, then it can be pretty cool to try this out, and it's definitely a more relaxing experience most of the time. Still, it can be fun to set up little rooms and just mess about, or create these giant and chaotic dogfights from time to time. Also, if you pick the right mission, you can end up using vehicles that you don't actually own, in some cases rather rare ones. And some of the AIs, especially on the ground, are models of vehicles that aren't actually in-game, which is kind of cool. And with that, we've basically covered all of the relatively surface level knowledge, and now we can start going into the depths. Body pillows. Ugh, okay, fine. I'm not really sure where War Thunder got the idea to add these. Maybe they took a quick gander at the post on War Thunder Live and figured players would be into this, and I've gotta say, they were probably right. There are a number of body pillows that are, well, I don't want to use the word collectible, but in the last couple years, a few have been added, with some random, worryingly lolly-looking ones, and there's actually apparently a male body pillow for the JSDF, but I couldn't find a picture of it anywhere, so I assume it exists because more than one person have told me about it, but who knows. 3 more were added recently, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Anyways, you can use these to decorate your tank if that's your thing, and well, yeah. Each to their own, I guess. Anime skins. Sticking to the theme, outside of Senrai Maidens, there are actually a handful of officially represented anime skins obtainable outside of War Thunder Live. Years ago, there was actually an official collaboration with the old anime Area 88, which unsurprisingly covers Cold War jet action, and so the collaboration just made sense. Several skins were unlockable for a brief period, although rather dumb they limited it to Japanese accounts only. There is also another. The Japanese AH-1S Cobra called Kisaratsu actually has its real-life promotional camouflage. Apparently it was painted this way to increase recruitment for the JSDF at the time. I assumed it worked because they actually did it more than once, because nothing says joining the military like cute anime girls. Maneuver kills. Maneuver kills is where you can manage to force your opponent to crash in a dogfight without actually using your own weaponry. Whether that be because you are out of ammo or because they are behind you, sometimes certain stunts you can pull result in the enemy losing control or just not thinking things through properly. Unfortunately, it doesn't actually count as a kill for you unless you hit them first. Many people have wanted this change for ages so that it does count, but sadly it hasn't happened yet. Review bombing. Another way that War Thunder became rather infamous is with the review bombing. Several player revolts happened over the years due to one unpopular decision or another, but in I believe 2023 it spiraled out of control when new economy nerfs were being introduced, effectively making the game harder for everybody. It was so massively unpopular that a huge campaign spawned to negatively review the game as much as possible on Steam, affecting the rating so bad it was then labeled as overwhelmingly negative with thousands of reviews pouring in. You can still see where this spike was if you look at the review chart now. The players even organized a boycott, refusing to play the game on a certain day. It didn't really affect the overall numbers, but the Great Gaijin boycott resulted in some 20 to 30,000 players just not logging in. Luckily, War Thunder released a roadmap with planned economy improvements to fix this, which they've slowly been implementing ever since. Ride of the Valkyries. Many years ago, when countries in-game received their own unique theme in the hangar, Germany's was Ride of the Valkyries. If you don't know which song that is, it's the one in Apocalypse Now with the helicopters. It was kind of an odd choice, as unlike basically all the other tracks in-game, it was a pre-existing song, not composed by Gaijin Entertainment. To my knowledge, it no longer is the song for Germany in-game, perhaps due to licensing issues. I've also been told that it is still in the game by some people, but I personally haven't heard it in some time. I don't really mind its absence, as personally when I do think of Ride of the Valkyries, I just think of Huey's rather than Germany. Senrai Maidens. War Thunder has always had an odd choice of collaborations. An underwhelming Mad Max spin-off movie, then the hit game Atomic Heart. Heh, remember when people were hyped about that one? And most bizarre of all, Senrai Maidens. Girls and Panzer was already taken doing collaborations with World of Tanks, so War Thunder had to find the next best thing with regards to tank enemies with girls, I guess. Unfortunately, they clearly couldn't find one, so their solution was Senrai Maidens, a series they just entirely made up themselves. I say series, we have a trailer for it and 3 characters and that's about it. I really don't get it. Are they planning to do more with this? Basically, they collaborated with themselves just as a reason to sell reskin top tier premiums, which are way too expensive and way too uninteresting for me to want one. The funniest thing is that despite War Thunder heavily marketing the 3 girls along with the 3 tanks you can buy, if you do buy any of the 3, you only get the tank. There is no way to actually see or even hear any of the unique crew members, so essentially you spent over 60 quid on a cheap skin which would normally cost you about 200 golden eagles, or for free if you find it on War Thunder Live. You do get a profile icon, I guess. Oh, and of course, more body pillows. There's actually a Senrai Maidens Iceberg made by Hero Voodoo on YouTube that I highly recommend you check it out. It's actually surprisingly extensive. Hidden Campfire. As a sucker for lore and potential urban legends, this one really interests me. On the Fiji naval map, there is actually a tiny, minuscule campfire tucked away and hidden in a cave. In most cases, you'll completely miss it if you're not looking. You can't actually get inside the cave, but it is really cool how this little thing is hidden and so out of the way. Who built it? What is the story behind this? Hell, why even include it if it's so hard to find? The lore is so deep. And yeah, I have tried to get inside and, well, it doesn't work. The Duck. The Duck is one of those fan-favorited vehicles, mostly due to its comical appearance, and pretty hilariously poor performance when flying. The HS-129 is a German strike aircraft that is probably nicknamed the Duck for its yellow beak-like nose. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is for this one. I also like how its cockpit view looks like you're staring out of an old-fashioned television as well. PO2. The PO2 is another fan-favorited vehicle, but perhaps more so than the last. It is often regarded as the worst vehicle in the game, which is probably why people love it, because that's just how people work, I guess. Even including World War I bombers, this is actually the slowest plane in the game, with a top speed actually lower than some of the ground vehicles. The PO-2 actually used to be in the tech tree but was removed unsurprisingly and since made a highly sought after event vehicle due to its popularity. It gets no forward guns, only one rear gun, and as mentioned has truly horrific speed. Operation Summer and the IS-7. I'm lumping these two together as they are kind of related. Operation Summer was an old event cycle where you had the chance to win 4 event vehicles over a set period by playing the game, kind of like the current Christmas event going on now. Except for this Operation Summer back in 2018, you had to play the game a lot. Keep in mind you had roughly 3 weeks to get the rewards you wanted. The IS-7 was really hard to get. I get it was the main prize, but people calculated you needed at least 100 hours of gameplay, sometimes even more, and that's on the lower end of the scale, if you wanted even just a chance to get this big boy. I mean, it was the mother of all tanks at the time, and it was super OP when it first came to the game, but even so, if you had a job, family plans, or a date, you best cancel it if you wanted this tank at the time. Considering how hard it was to get, and I guess its reputation coming from World of Tanks gave this tank almost mythical status, even more so when you factor in that it is currently not even for sale on the marketplace. The last one that was sold went for something like $2,000. Playable people. Long before infantry was actually announced as a dedicated game mode, there were actual people in the game. Well, okay, I say playable, but you could walk around in the hangar for War Thunder's anniversary events and check out all the nifty Easter eggs around you. It was kinda cursed, but it was also kinda cool. There were also some soldiers in the test flight maps back in the day, but I can't find footage of this anymore. You can still see some of the infantry in some of the War Thunder custom live mods. I love their exaggerated death animations. Fake vehicles. Despite War Thunder's claims to historical accuracy, there are a number of unhistorical vehicles in the game. The main one that people jump on is the Panther II, which isn't really accurately represented in game. The real thing wasn't finished, and if it was, it definitely didn't look like this. The Tiger II 105 wasn't completed either, and the Japanese F-16 is only in game as a theory because Japan considered buying one but never tried it. It actually only exists in game just to give Japan a lineup at that specific tier. The most inaccurate one though is the R2Y2 series. The real one looked like this, and yet none of the 3 in game seem to be based on it. All these vehicles remain in game, but only for the players who unlock them before they disappear for good. Free Abrams. One of the more major player revolts happened when a War Thunder content creator, who was kind of like the official spokesperson who did voiceovers in their videos and such, was receiving flack for defending the need to keep repairs and fire extinguishers as unlockables for your tanks. Basically, it's a feature everyone hates, as until you've unlocked it when you get your tank brand new, it can't actually be repaired in battle, which is very inconvenient. This guy's response was,
why not give everybody a free Abrams tank, if we're doing that?
He definitely misread the room and the player base, kind of just showing how out of touch he was with everything. As a result, I believe he was quietly tucked away from being spokesperson, although I still think he does work for War Thunder, someone said, and later War Thunder just made fun of the whole situation by actually letting you get an Abrams for free. For a limited time only, the premium XM1 Abrams prototype was available for free if you bought some bundle of 13,000 and something gold. It even came with decals that forever immortalized the moment, and that's just fantastic. Arise Great Country. This is one of the more iconic War Thunder soundtracks, what many would associate as the main or most recognizable theme, but you might not have known that's what its name was. This usually ends up being the one that is in most War Thunder memes, or even just most tank or plane memes in general, especially with the cursed a cappella version. It was either this or Advanced Australia, both are iconic, and both featured earlier in this video. In case you need a reminder, this is Arise Great Country. Unadded vehicles. There are a couple of teased vehicles you can find images of in the game that are just not in the game. For example, in one of the main loading screens you can find a photo of a Coronado flying boat. Not in the game, of course. Hell, even in your profile, if you want to set your displayed status, how many nukes you've got across many games, you can clearly see what is meant to be a B-52 as the icon, and yet it just isn't here. There is also a Mexican P-47 Thunderbolt as a loading screen and wallpaper, which was allegedly promised years ago as a premium, but still has not yet arrived. Femboys. Okay, I'm not really sure what to say here, but this is basically referring to the surprisingly high number of femboys playing this game. I don't know what it is about it, but there are a lot, including several clans literally revolving around it with it as their name or just their theme. Marketplace. The Marketplace is an in-game shop where players can buy and sell various items or vehicles for an in-game currency called Gaijin coins, with one coin equating to roughly $1. You can actually use these to buy in-game packs as well, rather than just things on the marketplace. It basically works like eBay, and let's just say some vehicles have gone for extreme prices in the past, like somebody actually bought these. The prices constantly fluctuate up and down. This rather underwhelming skin last time I checked was about 300 Gaijin coins, and now it is... wait, 2,000? What? Crying Seal. The Crying Seal decal came to War Thunder with a collaboration with the rather famous YouTuber of the Russian Badger. You can actually get Crying Seal decals in the game, including a rather derpy looking plush seal toy thing. There are even some seal vehicles, some low tier premiums designed probably for seal clubbing. Maybe that's probably why it's a Crying Seal in the first place. Unique pilot models. Every nation in the game gets unique looking crew members for their vehicles, but there are some super specific ones for certain vehicles as well. The AH-1S Kisaratsu Cobra has its real-life pilot modelled, and the P-51C has a Tuskegee Airman attached to it as well. I don't know why he doesn't just come with a specific red tail skin rather than the entire plane as a whole, but who cares, now you can finally live out your lightning fantasies.
I'm gonna show him a little trick I learned!
Trains. Obviously, War Thunder is not a train game, but there are still some trains in the game, albeit few and far between, especially nowadays. We're not talking about just the stationary ones on the map, but the physical, moving trains. There's a big one on the American Desert map, which even has a damage model and can be killed, but lesser known, there's also an armoured train on the Flanders map, which is, well, it looks funky. There were also some on air maps which you can use to farm some 30 ground target kills in one go, but sadly most have now been removed. Hull break. Hull break was an old mechanic in game that basically meant your tank, if it was lightly armoured enough or even just open top, would be one shot by things like HE or specifically heat rounds, likely simulating the force of such weak armour getting hit by something that just tears armour open so easily. Although arguably more realistic, it drove most players up the wall with how easily they were being killed, and yeah, fair enough. Unfortunately, nowadays we have the opposite, when large unarmoured vehicles just being way too tanky thanks to the hull break's removal. Toilet bomb. This super rare weapon is only available on the A1H Skyraider, as a real-life Skyraider during Vietnam carried a modified toilet bomb thing on a sortie to commemorate a certain number of bomb tonnage dropped during the conflict thus far. Just for funsies, I guess. The toilet bomb has all the aerodynamics of, well, a toilet, making high-altitude bombing quite difficult, in fact just bombing in general really difficult, and also a minuscule explosive mass, making it really hard to kill even the weakest of vehicles. It was added just sort of as a joke addition to this one plane, and yeah, I guess it's pretty funny. KV-220. The KV-220 has gone down in history as one of the most monstrous tanks ever added to the game, and of course it is a super rare event tank, so hardly anyone has ever got to play it, and those that have it might as well be gods among men with how busted this thing was, and how good their skill is as a player is as well. It's basically a giant fat KV-1, first coming to the game at BR I think 5.7. This thing has ludicrous armor and a punchy gun. Now it sits at 6.0 and it's not quite as strong, but I swear I still just get bad RNG when I shoot at this thing. Nigel. If the snail was the official mascot for War Thunder, then Nigel is the mascot within our hearts of the players. Nigel is basically just the old British pilot model who sported a spruce snazzy moustache. His model was actually brought over from the Birds of Steel game. I don't know why he became a meme more than any other pilot models in the game, but if you ask me, the American one is way crustier and in dire need of an update as well. Anyways, Nigel was sadly updated and therefore recast or maybe just killed off in 2018, and while the new one looks better, it just isn't the same Nigel. The community was distraught over the loss of this guy so much that War Thunder has even since named some soundtracks after Nigel, acknowledged him in several memes on their channel, and even made him his own decal in-game. How sweet is that? So with that said and done, we have now finished the depths. Now we can go even deeper into the spookier realm of the video, where things are a bit more ominous, a bit more mysterious, and I guarantee you there's some on here that you might not have heard of before. Flying tanks. There are a number of funny glitches you can do to get your tank to fly, especially through the various mods you can find in game. However, there was a bug a few years ago that let it happen accidentally inside actual random battles for some reason. Particularly with the Churchill tank. I don't really know how this is caused, but the results are pretty extraordinary. You're also still fully modelled and everything as well, and it is entirely possible for someone to score you as a kill while you're like this, which is pretty funny as well. Name origin. War Thunder's parent company Gaijin's actual name translates as the Japanese word for a foreigner. Apparently this was chosen many years ago when they founded the company, as the original creators dreamed of one day making it into the Japanese market. Well, I think they kind of achieved that goal. You be the judge. Anyways, as for War Thunder itself, well, who knows why it's called War Thunder. But I do have a theory. Blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg is lightning war. Lightning war? War Thunder? No? Challenger disaster. The Challenger rocket infamously exploded in 1986, sadly claiming the lives of numerous astronauts. Parts of what makes it so famous is that there is a rather good photograph of the exact explosion. What's this got to do with War Thunder? Well, does anyone remember Update Seek and Destroy? This one. Does something look familiar? Yeah, it turns out whoever made the official art for it may have just ended up copying a PNG of said rocket explosion. People very quickly realized and called them out, and Gaijin had to swiftly change it to a more regular looking explosion instead. War Thunder then had to publicly apologize following the incident. Unusable drop tanks. Several planes can equip drop tanks in-game for increased range. To be honest, very few actually need them, but I'm of the opinion that they just make you look cooler. There were, however, some that were briefly viewable in the hangar a little while ago, but sadly they've been patched out. Basically, I could see my Hellcat equipped with a drop tank in the background of the hangar, but it couldn't actually equip one in-game when you flew it out for yourself. Weird. Censorships. Like many wargames, War Thunder has numerous censorships. You have the classic ones like no swastikas, although that said you can still find them through War Thunder Live for some reason. Why that's banned, but you can still write for Stalin on your tank is beyond me. Anyways, it seems like numerous pinups were also changed to make them less sexual, I guess? I don't really know. Also, we may as well cover it. I'm not going to show you an example, but there is almost no filter when it comes to picking a username. I have seen some wild ones in the past. All those Chinese ones you see in the game, by the way, yeah, a lot of them are actually kind of racist. Bella Ciao. Similar to the Ride of the Valkyries, this was also War Thunder's national theme, specifically for Italy this time. I keep telling people it's been removed years ago, but others still say they swear they've heard it since. You tell me in the comments, can you guys hear Bella Ciao in the hangar, because I haven't heard it in years. Hidden vehicles. There are several hidden vehicles scattered around various War Thunder maps and locations. I'm not going to mention tanks, as it's pretty common to see them in ground maps, but just as some examples for aircraft, there is a crashed B-17 on the Ash River map, and on the Jungle map before it was remodeled at least. There's also one on the Coral Islands naval map as well. There's a whole ass C5 Galaxy, a plane not actually usable in-game, on the Flanders map. There is a crashed Petlikov PE2 on the Fire Arc map, and I swear there's one on Volokholamsk that I saw years ago, but I don't know, looking around this forest will take forever, so just trust me on this one. Another one worth mentioning though are the tanks on the Fulda Gap map, which have also sadly been removed. These are one of the few instances where there are just fully modelled, not destroyed vehicles just sat as part of the map. There were some M60s and T62s. It was quite funny when this map first came out, as a lot of players liked to hide amongst them and pretend they were part of the scenery as an ambush. Also, in the old US test flight map, there were some C-47 Skytrains. You can still find them in various custom missions though. And somewhere in the files and also in custom missions, there are Lisanov Li-2 aircraft, basically a Soviet license-built copy of the C-47. Accurate geography. Some of the detailing in this game is extremely accurate, even down to the geography of exact locations. We're not just talking about Berlin looking like Berlin, but the Stalingrad map has modeled the exact tank factories where the battles took place. The Pacific map isn't just a random jungle and is a location on the island of Guadalcanal. Perhaps most impressive is the scale of these locations. Some maps are giant and almost never ending. The Pearl Harbor map is my favorite example because it's actually just a full-on one-to-one scale recreation of the entirety of Hawaii, which is actually insane. I have driven round it with a friend, both in speedy tanks, and it took roughly 6 hours to do a full circuit of the island. How crazy is that? And just another example, the British map, which includes part of France, actually has a full-scale English channel, with it being at least 22 kilometers at its nearest point. Me-163 Comet bug. The Me-163 Comet was not a very safe plane to fly. It also wasn't very safe to fly in game either. A while ago, this and the Ki-200 both shared a bug where they would just spontaneously combust on takeoff for no reason whatsoever. At least it was historically accurate, I guess. War Thunder YouTube's unadded features. This basically discusses things revealed on War Thunder's YouTube channel in various videos, more as teasers for things that just never came to the game. The main two examples are the Ruacat SPAA vehicle being in the South African trailer update, but not actually coming to the game itself, and the Avro Vulcan itself. Damn you, why must you tease us like this? Give us those jet bombers. Planned release trees. Way back in I think 2013, War Thunder released a proposal of all the planned additions to come to the game, and it is very different to what we actually ended up getting. First of all, they didn't actually go past 1950s technology, and well, there are just some crazy additions. There were a butt-ton of more Russian biplanes, a Lend-Lease B-17, captured German Spitfires and Mustangs, more American B-17s, more B-24s, more B-25s, the mythical Hochgeschwindigkeit 262s, even the Huckabine. Is it bad I kind of prefer this to what we actually ended up getting? Maybe it's just me, but man, I wish I could have played old War Thunder. This would have been so cool to see. But unfortunately, a lot of these still just haven't come to the game even today. Vietnam loudspeaker. On the Vietnam map, there are a number of these loudspeakers that actually play the sort of propaganda messages. Kind of like in real life where you had Hanoi Hannah, basically taunting Americans the entire time. Ours is a little bit different. For one, it's a man. I guess Hannah was fully booked, so we gotta make do with Hanoi Hank instead.
You are new here, and we don't expect you to believe us when we tell you how bad it is. It is a flat, scary jungle, hot and wet, in intermittent rain, and strong tropical dragonflies, and Vietcong sniper bullets.
P-3 fixed turret. The Petlyakov PE-3 is a Soviet light bomber converted to a heavy fighter. What you might not have known though is that in the tail there is a tiny turret with a machine gun with super limited traverse. Very few people even notice it with how small it is, and the other turret does kind of steal all the attention. And its limited fire arc means it often just goes unused. Old Italian tree. Italy was officially added to the game in 2017, but before then they were technically already there. They were actually added to the German tree at the time before they were planned on being a separate edition, being part of the German tree with the original launch of the game. After Italy was properly added, those that already had them would still get to keep them. I even have this German-Italian SM-79 unlocked. What's funny though is I have this CR-42 Falco partly researched and it has stayed that way for maybe 9 years. I think I'll just keep it that way forever. It's more novel like this. Morse code message. On the Arctic base map there is a super cool little Easter egg to be found. If you drive up closely to these radar dome thingies and listen carefully, you can actually hear a Morse code message. Now, I am no expert on Morse code, but I have been reliably informed it actually says none other than "Attack the
waypoint!
Giant banana. A couple years ago, players had the opportunity to unlock a 3D banana decoration for their tanks if they took part in a little clicker game in the hangar. The problem was that it had a tiny little glitch, and by tiny little I mean big ass giant banana. This resulted in some of the most hilarious ground games imaginable because, well, what's funnier than a huge banana driving around? It didn't necessarily make for the best stealth tactics though. I have no idea if this was an intentional bug or not at the time, but it sure is funny. Update 1.53. This was an old update from I believe 2015 and was actually around the time I first started playing the game. Wow, it really has been 10 years. Anyways, aside from the cool additions that came with this update, it also came with yet another funny bug. Bombers were finally usable, just not really in the intended way. It turns out crashing your bomber miraculously gave you way more research points, far more so than literally just having a good game. I don't know why, but it resulted in numerous bomber pilots just nosediving their planes right at the start to cash in the money like big time. Sadly, exploiting this method did result in some players getting suspended for a little bit, but still, if you wanted to complete a tech tree quickly for a brief time, this was the way to do it. Battle Royale. Back in 2017, War Thunder tried to cash in the rising trend of Battle Royale games, started by certain other titles. War Thunder's one involved regular all-v-all tank gameplay and had the map shrink gradually with an increasingly small area to fight in, like certain other titles. It was only a limited time event though, maybe planned as a dedicated side mode, but sadly it never came back, which I think is kind of a shame because I wanted to give this thing a go. Bruce. Bruce was one of the old commentators for the official War Thunder channel videos several years back. He was extremely popular, largely to his old gentlemanly grandad-like demeanour and his charming voice.
We'll see what we can do. If it looks interesting enough in our tests, then we'll surely do it. Big Chungus, right?
Unfortunately, he was sadly let go due to allegedly making comments, some even saying just making propaganda either for or against the war in Ukraine. It's hard to tell, but either way, he hasn't been heard on the channel ever since. White Rock Fortress. White Rock Fortress is an old ground forces map, in-game for some time until its removal a couple years ago, and well, the community just hasn't gotten over it. It's a true fan favourite. It was a pretty fun map, fairly janky with some of its exploitations, but still a good one nonetheless, but it offered unique urban gameplay around this castle setting. It reminds me of something you'd see in a paintball map, or maybe something you'd see in a tanky online game. Anyway, despite its removal, War Thunder has officially said it will actually come back after it has been reworked. Who knows when that will be though. PE-8 Communist Skin. Oh, this will be good. The Petlyakov PE-8 is the only World War II Soviet 4-engine heavy bomber in the game, and well, it's also one of a kind in another way. Despite us talking about censorships, this one has a hidden Easter egg in the tail. None other than the mustachioed maniac himself. Well, the Russian one at least. How is this even allowed? It's a marketplace skin, which means they definitely are moderated. Maybe it was just overlooked. Hidden neck faces. One of the weirdest visual experiences you can treat yourself to in War Thunder are the hidden neck faces. Holding down C in first person allows your pilot's head to look around, but if you look down the back of your own neck, it looks a little... well, what's even more bizarre is if you look down the back of specifically Australian pilots in planes like the Boomerang, for example, then you get the hidden neck face, and well, that is just haunting. Chinese War Thunder. Long ago, before China was in the game for us, War Thunder had a separate server for China and Chinese players, and they had their own Chinese tech tree, which was a little bit different from our own. There were several vehicles not found even in our current War Thunder, and even golden tanks for some reason. Hell yeah, now this is a premium tank. I don't know what it is about MMO tank games and adding golden Type 59s as premiums, but two of them have done it now. Malta Test Map. The Malta map is actually one of the smaller aircraft maps in the game, being the size of, well, Malta. Despite this, you may notice a rather large number of airfields, quite a lot of them looking different from each other. Apparently this map was used to test various airfield designs for use in actual air maps in game. Most of them remain unused on this map, but there's at least 6 or 7 on here. Big ones, small ones, even an aircraft carrier. You have no excuse to crash your plane because, well, there are just places to land everywhere. Just try and land on your actual airfield, otherwise you won't be able to repair. Fake update. Unfortunately, I don't really have any evidence for this one, so you'll just have to trust me on this. The update that introduced the Eurofighter and the Rafale had a fake trailer posted by a random YouTuber. It wasn't necessarily a leak, but it did lead to thousands clicking on it thinking it was the real thing. It was extremely convincing with good thumbnail, proper name and everything. I can't remember what the actual video ended up being, but it was probably just a rickroll. Anyways, with that, we have now finished the Twilight Zone and we go on into the final section of the video. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. Now, let's plunge into the abyss. Accurate stars. We went into detail before about War Thunder's dedication to accurate geography, but perhaps more bizarre and more impressive is their dedication to the sky. Just how big are these sky boxes? They have accurate stars in the night sky, apparently even down to where you are in the world according to each map you play, and time of year and time of day. You can see literal accurate star constellations as well. Why? Why would anyone go to this level of detail in the game? Just as unbelievable is that if you fly high enough, even during the day when you spawned, you can actually see the stars in outer space. You can even see the curvature of the freaking Earth. Just wow, just holy crap, War Thunder. James's IS-7. Okay, this one is actually pretty wholesome, despite the music you're hearing in the background. During that bastard of an event, Operation Summer, where you could try and get yourself the legendary super tank that is the IS-7, one player named James posted he was sad he wouldn't be able to have time to do it as he was caring for his sick wife at the time. Amazingly, in a lesser spotted act of generosity, the official War Thunder account responded and gifted him an IS-7 entirely for free, so long as he simply posted a picture of a nice meal he made for his wife. And that's the story. How wholesome. And War Thunder has never given anything away for free ever since. Fireboat bug. There are a number of these little fireboat things on the Malta map exclusively. They are normally super easy to farm and die almost in one hit, but if you leave them, they end up ramming your ships and exploding kamikaze style. That doesn't sound very Italian, but that's apparently what they do. Sometimes they appear bugs and are literally impossible to kill, despite their mega weak reputation. Okay, well I swear they used to be. They were on the old Iceberg. Alright, well fine. The models on these are still super old and crusty, which is pretty funny. Look, the guns are permanently firing, I think? Blocked mechanization. This refers to aircraft in-game that can use one function of the aircraft, but not in conjunction with another. Just some examples: the Seahawk cannot use its flaps and air brake at the same time. The Sky Raider can't deploy its air brake with its landing gear down, and my personal favourite, the BB-1, which I always questioned if the fairly recent addition of giving it a crazy payload of 2 500 kilo bombs, despite already being the most OP 1.3 aircraft in the game, was a realistic thing. Apparently, if you do take these 2 bombs, you can't actually deploy the flaps. Pretty important part of the plane.
How? How? How?
I don't know!
I bet takeoffs would have been fun. Oh, and in case you didn't notice earlier, this plane with this loadout is mega easy to put into a flat spin, so be careful. Japanese writing. When the aircraft carriers were remodeled a few years ago, the IJ and Shokaku specifically got some writing written on a board on the ship's island tower. What does this mean though? I don't speak Japanese, and I imagine most of you don't either. Maybe it's just some flight instructions, some added history. Maybe it's some hidden lore, a creepypasta, or a dark tale, or a pumpkin soup recipe. Well, still, it's an Easter egg, and that is cool. Yak-9B Bombay. The Yak-9B is your typical low-rank Soviet fighter, not particularly remarkable and definitely quite forgotten, but it is unique in one single way. One way not many realize: it has a bomb bay. Inside you can squeeze up to 4 100 kilo bombs, which is honestly impressive, and because they are mounted internally, they don't really cause much drag. It also makes it, to my knowledge, the only fighter in the whole game that actually has its own bomb bay, which is kinda neat. Funding terrorism. Was War Thunder funding terrorism? Well, that's what some people thought a little while ago. Basically, like many games, War Thunder sponsors content creators to do stuff with their game. and one time they sponsored long Russian name. Anyways, not long after, accusations about terrorism started being thrown about. Was it true? Not really. However, you can sort of see the confusion when this was the only image that cropped up with no other context whatsoever. People were convinced either way, at least for a little bit. Turns out the guy just randomly does niche Eastern European outdoors content, not channeling War Thunder's money to Russian rebels in Ukraine. Overpowered tutorial tank. I've got a question for you all. Who here remembers War Thunder's tutorial? Got another question. Did anyone even play the tutorial? Well, I happen to remember the days when I gave it a go years back, and I distinctly remember penning an IS-4 in the Panther II that you're given. This is not something you can actually do in-game. Turns out if you play the Tank Sniper tutorial, you are given a Panther II, but it is some superfied, mega overpowered tank with a crazy APCR shell, which is actually good, and has wild penetration. This might just be the highest penetration of a tank shell in the whole game, and it has a speedy reload. This is the only instance to my knowledge of a tutorial vehicle just having inflated stats. Probably sends a bad first impression, as if anyone just in case did get a Panther II, they will probably be sorely disappointed if this was the vehicle they were expecting. Premature battle ratings. It's not uncommon for things in game development or test servers to express that these stats are subject to change. There are some catastrophic examples in this, with War Thunder with regards to some vehicles having way lower or way higher battle ratings than they should feasibly have. The EBR FL10 is the best example. It has been a menace for years and is constantly being moved up again and again, but could you believe when it was first unveiled, it was just 3.7. Yes, 3.7. For reference, it is now 7.0, which has to be the biggest BR increase in the history of the whole game. There are more examples out there, but another more egregious one is the KI-84 Hey Hayate, which sits at 6.3 in Air RB, but a whopping 7.7 in Air Arcade. This actually means it can see freaking MiG-21s in battle. Just how does that even make sense? War Thunder Training Program Disaster. Oof, okay, I don't know where to begin with this one. Many years ago, not long after the release of the French tech tree, I think it was, a little server was set up called the War Thunder Training Program. It was aimed at getting experienced players to teach newbies some of the basics just to give them a more friendly beginner experience. Believe it or not, I was chosen as one of the teachers. I don't know why, because I can't have been that old at the time, but sure, why not? Anyways, things went smoothly for a short while until one of the rookies started acting a little weird. Turns out they had just discovered Doki Doki Literature Club, and it was rapidly affecting his mental health, and soon his behavior just turned into shocking mental deterioration and depression. Bad news was rumored very quickly, and the whole program was promptly shut down afterwards. X4 Bantam. We spoke earlier about War Thunder's planned release trees. There were some interesting additions on there, but none more so than the tiny X4 Bantam, a small weaponless research jet from the late 40s and early 1950s. This adorable little critter was built after World War II to trial various designs similar to the Me-163 Comet, just a little bit less explosive. The thing is, what would this thing even do in War Thunder? It had no guns, no weapons, nothing. It's a research plane. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see a weaponized version of this still come to the game, or a side mode where you could do trials with research and experimental aircraft. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine. Sadly, the little Bantam never ended up coming to War Thunder, and well, the rest is history. That said, while recording this section, I did come across this photo of the Bantam with what looked like bombs next to it, so maybe there was a weaponized version planned. War Thunder Pornstar. War Thunder seems to have a running history of weird sponsors, and well, this is maybe, well, it definitely takes the cake, that's for sure. Eva Elfie is an influencer that specializes in a certain type of content. Okay, well, it's not specifically just straight up, you know, but go check out her YouTube channel. It's still pretty OnlyFansy, let's just say. One time she had a War Thunder sponsored ad in her video, and well, you'd think that would be the end of it. No, for a limited time only, you could get Eva Elfie as an official pin-up decal in-game promoted by War Thunder. Yeah, War Thunder, you're drawing a very fine line here, aren't you? I think what is even funnier is that the video in the ad is literally just called How to Meet Girls. There, you heard it here, folks. War Thunder was the answer all along. If only more than 3 girls actually played the game. I also enjoy how half the comments here are saying just who here is from War Thunder. Also, yeah, having literally just checked, yeah, no, she was an actual full-on porn star. It literally says on her channel. Pacific Hidden Base. This has to be one of the coolest air maps in the game. Usually saved for Air Arcade, but I'd love to see this in realistic too. I don't even think it's on the map rotation anymore though, and that's a real shame. This is one fantastic map, all the way from the earliest days of the game. What makes it so interesting is that it is more than just, well, sky. There are these rock tunnels that you can weave through, this random flak tower that honestly looks out of place but is still really cool, and one super massive volcano crater thing which has been responsible for some of the most hilarious custom lobbies known to man. It really is bloody brilliant. I give you Rainbow Road in War Thunder. Okay, well, it's not quite rainbow, but you can see the vision, maybe. This is actually from my old War Thunder friend Dolan's YouTube channel, filmed in 2017. Yes, this was a video from 8 years ago, and there I am, a very young Snazzy on screen there.
Wait, merciful crap!
Training the military. There are a number of photos online if you dig deep enough of soldiers playing War Thunder, so naturally people ask, is the military using War Thunder to help in training? I mean, it was called a national security risk. Well, during the COVID pandemic, there is an article or two that does just that. Now, American tankers can learn how to still be tankers from the comfort of their own room. What this guy can learn from playing low-tier arcade battles in an M2 medium and then apply to full real Abrams combat is beyond me, but there you go. But there's more. More famously, in the Russo-Ukrainian war, fairly recently, still ongoing, an American-supplied Ukrainian M3 Bradley famously destroyed, or at least disabled, a T-90 Russian main battle tank using just the 25mm auto cannon. When asked in an interview how he managed to do this, he said he used his knowledge from video games. What game allows you to shoot at T-90s with M3 Bradleys? Take a guess. BP 1999. This is one that could spawn a creepypasta or urban legend. The potential is there. There are a number of these BP 1999 engravings on the white trees in-game, most prominent on the Finland map. It could just be nothing, but like most Easter eggs, this was investigated, similar to the sign in Super Mario 64, where many people thought this sign said L is real 2401, Luigi, which led many to believe that Luigi was possibly unlockable in-game somehow. The story for War Thunder goes that a lost lone Finnish pilot was forced to crash land in the middle of the forest. Cut off from civilization, he carved this into every tree he could find to be remembered. Spooky stuff. The more likely story is that this is the date of a love engraving belonging to maybe one of the developers in a relationship, as there is what appears to be a heart with an arrow as well. Unfortunately, the trees have all since been replaced, and I don't see BP 1999 anywhere. Maybe they broke up. Rain effects. The rain effects in this game do look very pretty, but did you know that if you look up and tilt the camera at the right angle, you can actually see little drops of water trickle down the screen? Yes, that's it. Well, I thought it was neat anyway. Z-Tanks. Z-Tanks refers to the white marking some players like to put on their usually Russian armoured vehicles in the game. This is obviously in reference to the tanks used in the Russo-Ukrainian war. Although it is kind of just an identification marker similar to D-Day stripes in World War II, it also just kind of shows that you're a bit of an insensitive arsehole, so I wouldn't recommend doing it. F-94 Starfire. The Starfire is sort of a fan favourite on my channel and my most requested vehicle to come to the game. It's not even my favourite overall, but it has sort of unofficially become the channel mascot because it is just so damn cool. Yes, it is also the plane that lost to a PO2 in the Korean War. Anyways, we love the Starfire. It's even in the channel logo. Easter eggs. I was saving these towards the end because they are just so good, so let's quick fire them off and cue the music. First off, there is a War Thunder poster in the offices of the Alaska map. The handy page 12 World War I bomber has a small photograph of a woman in the cockpit. The freighter ship in the Arctic base map is called Borealis, the same as the one in the Half-Life series. There is a shopping list of aircraft in the cockpit of the Dornier 335, there is a flare gun in the cockpit of the Firefly in the S199, there is an Su-25 statue in the Severse 13 map based on one from a trailer, the USS Alaska has its real-life basketball court on deck, there are profile pictures based off of real people in the game, if you wait long enough there is actually a day-night cycle accurate to real time, The signs on the Chinese city map translate to Snail Park. The M2A4 used to have a snail logo on its 30 cal. The tank in the thermal vision icon is a World War II Chi-Ri, despite thermals not existing at that time. There is a fairy gannet in one of the profile icons, despite not being in the game at all. There was a fake Mean Girls poster in the Sun City map for some reason. The KV-85 and ZUT-37 have modelled buckets on the back. The KI-83 is listed as having 2 crew, even though one isn't modelled, though you can still see his tiny chair in the back, which is funny. The PE-8 used to have a weird pilot doll thing in the cockpit. Your plane's clock, if it has one, is actually linked to your computer, not the time of day in game. There is one of those weird April Fool's Star Wars KV-2 walkers in a hangar on the Sicily map. There is a reference to the Evergreen ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal on a naval map. There is a tiny hidden unused airfield in the middle of the Coral Islands map. And finally, on the Arctic base map, if you listen closely to this house, you can hear someone playing the in-game track Advanced Australia on an accordion. Oh, this is a good game. Creepypastas. Unfortunately, BP 1999 has been removed, and most other creepypastas in this game have either been debunked, countered, or just never existed in the first place. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, actually looking nothing like the real thing. Still creepy though. However, there is one left to round off this whole damn iceberg. Remember those Italian fireboats on Malta? Turns out they aren't Italian at all. They're actually Japanese. I think. Say hello to Four Eyes. He has 4 eyes, 2 noses, even 2 mouths, and is absolutely the most terrifying thing in this game by far. I am amazed these models haven't been updated in goodness knows how long, because, it's just creepy. There, I made you all a creepypasta, and with that is the end of the War Thunder Iceberg. Wow, what a journey. Not just with the making of this video, which, as I've been timing it, took about 40 hours in just under 4 days. Don't try this method at home, it really is a drag, but what a journey. Not just with this video, but also with this channel. We've only been here since the beginning of July, and look how far we've come. I've been promising this video for a while now. It was my most grandest effort on my old channel, and here it is, bigger and better than ever on my new one. And hey, it actually made it in time for Christmas. Huzzah for that. Thank you so much to everybody watching, liking, subscribing, all of the ings. Thank you to all the original fans who followed me over to the new channel despite my unfortunate situation. And thank you to all my new subscribers who are here, new to this new channel. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was worth the wait. If you did, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, and tell a friend. It really helps the channel out. Hell, even comment your favorite part, something you learned, or just whatever you like. Now, I need to catch up on some much needed sleep, and much needed food as well. Actually, I'm really hungry. Also, as you may have noticed, the War Thunder Major update came out midway through my recording sessions, and yet I haven't really had a chance to play it, so I'm probably gonna go do that. For those that celebrate it, I hope you all have an amazing Christmas, and if you don't, well, I just hope you all have a very snazzy day instead. That's all from me. Watch your 6, and I'll catch you all in the next one.